All right, everyone, here we are again.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Jackie.
Good
What's going on,
morning.
Jack? We have a little delay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Did you have a good weekend?
I did. Busy weekend, but a good weekend.
Good. All
It's
right.
good.
Are
Definitely feel the Monday.
you look forward to Monday because your weekends are so hectic?
It really is. It's true. Like my kids were up this morning, like, we're so tired. We don't want to go to school. And I'm like, no, you have to go because we have to go to school. You're fine. Go.
I think you're running them ragged.
I'm running myself ragged.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, it's a good thing that we have this topic coming up today.
Yes,
So we have a really important topic. I am going to end up throwing myself under the bus in
exactly.
talking about this and my irresponsibility as a patient, but and a human being. But first, tell me this though: what are we promoting? Because we have a good promotion out there, and everyone I know needs to know about it.
Yes. So right now we're offering a keeping it off consultation with an incentive.
What
So
is
if you're
that?
Yeah, so keeping it off consultation is coming in and obviously sitting down with you, Dr. R, and really discussing and working backwards. People come to us all of the time looking for help in losing, but the biggest part is not so much losing. The hardest part is keeping it off. So coming in reverse, coming to us knowing that we have the answers, we will help you get it off regardless. But now the biggest part is keeping it off. So what do you do after that? So you come in, talk to us, the incentive of $50 off your.
Okay, I'm not sure if everyone could hear Jackie. For me, she's on delay, and now she's actually frozen. So I am going to take it, I think, from here. I'm going to remove you, Jackie, and then if you can get back on, that would be great. Okay. All right. Good. Yes. So to follow up on what Jackie says regarding a keeping it off consultation, listen. There's the little game and there's the big game. Everyone thinks that losing weight is the big game. It's not. It's the little game that allows you to get to the big game. The big game is keeping your weight off for life, right? Is for this to not continue to be a problem. Um, I've said this before. I am okay with people if they choose to have a strategy of gaining weight and then losing it. Like you could be, in that sense, you could be kind of like a bear, right? You can gain weight during the winter, sleep all winter, stay in, but once the spring comes out, then you want to lose weight. You can do that. All right. But for those of you who don't want to do that, who would rather keep it off, there is a way to do that. I've written a book about it. The book has gotten great feedback. If you listen, you've heard like Joe and Pat talk about it. You heard Emily. Emily was out of her mind when she was talking about it in a really good way. All right. So that's why we do keeping it off consultations. The conversation should be about strategizing how to do it for life. And then, of course, you have to lose weight to get to that area. So we'll have that whole discussion. All right. Okay, let's talk about. We're going to try to get Jackie back in. We hopefully will be able to do it. There she is. Hi, Jack.
Hi. So I don't know what happened. I was mid conversation. I got cut off.
Well, you're still kind of frozen a little bit, but I can hear you.
And
So
still,
again, yeah, when this records, it may not be frozen. So as long as you
yeah.
hear me, we're good. But as soon as I stop hearing you, I got to cut you
Okay.
off because then it's just awkward. All right. Let's introduce our topic for today. Today we're talking about anemia. Is that correct, Jackie? Okay. So Jackie's gone.
Okay. So I'll stop my cam. At least we could talk.
Okay. You can hear me, right? And it's coming in with no delay? No, you see, I can't hear you. So, all right. Our topic today is anemia. So there's a reason I wanted to talk about this. We hit on it last week or a couple of weeks ago. It is one of the hidden causes that robs people of their energy and could lead to some pretty serious consequences. Now, let me introduce it by first talking about someone I don't like to talk about, which is me. My policy, if you watch these Facebook Lives is I don't discuss myself, right? It's not about me. I'm pretty shy that way. My staff has always been wonderful about throwing themselves under the bus. But if I'm going to confess, I might as well confess. So I currently, as we speak, I have anemia. I am anemic. Now, I have iron deficiency anemia. So anemia is a group of disorders, which basically means that you do not have enough oxygen going to your tissues. You don't have enough oxygen in your blood cells. Now, there's a lot of information about anemia, and a lot of it is very important. Personally, I personally want people to understand this. I mentioned last week that I had a conversation with a client, and she told me she was anemic, and she said it in a very casual way. And I said, no, 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 you don't understand. You are anemic. Like, that's the way it needs to be understood, right? You don't have enough oxygen going to your brain and your other tissues. And I wish it was expressed to me like that, because I myself am guilty of being casual. Last year, feeling run down, and we'll get into the symptoms of anemia, but you can imagine that if you don't have enough oxygen in your body, that you're going to feel run down, right? So feeling run down, I did a series of tests, and it came up that I likely have Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune disease of the digestive tract, and anemia. And it was expressed to me that I had it and I should do something about it, but it wasn't expressed like getting in your face. And I'm going to tell you the problem with that. The problem with me not getting it at that degree is that I did start on a program of treating it, right? I went in, I got infusions. So these are blood infusions, right? And they give you iron, right? Because I'm iron deficient. They give you iron, they put it right into your bloodstream, and vitamin B12 and a couple of other things. So I was doing that, and I felt slightly better. But I expected it to be miraculous. I had discovered the problem, and I expected a miracle, and I didn't get a miracle. So after doing this for a while, and by the way, it was out of pocket, so it was expensive, I got frustrated, and I stopped my course. How stupid can you be? So this is my confession. My confession is I am slow, and I don't want anyone listening to me to be slow like I can be sometimes, to be obstinate and silly and make stupid, irrational, emotional decisions out of frustration, which is something I see with my clients, right? So any of my clients, if you're listening right now, this is, again, my throwing myself under the bus. I am like you, and not always to my benefit, right? So the idea is that you don't be like me. The rule of thumb is, especially for parents, whatever you would do for your child, you do for yourself. That is the rule I want you to make sure that you take away with you. We have a sense sometimes that we're invulnerable, and just by force of will, we'll make it past anything. But again, not enough oxygen in the blood, like, duh. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the actual disorder. There are a few ways that a person could be anemic. One way is just, again, not having enough iron in the blood. So iron makes up something called heme. Heme is the part of the blood that carries oxygen. Okay, very, very important. Very often when a person has this, it's because they are losing blood somehow, whether they're aware of it or not. For people who have digestive issues, you can be losing blood and not even know about it. They call that occult blood. It means hidden. It comes out in your stools, but you don't even know about it. Then there's something called frank blood, and that's where it's red and it's coming out, you can see it. So iron deficiency anemia is more common than people think. It doesn't start out as anemia. it starts out as being iron deficient, right? So it has to reach a certain threshold before it's considered anemia. And probably there are a lot of people out there listening who are iron deficient and maybe symptomatic of being iron deficient, because iron deficiency is the #1 mineral deficiency in the world, and it affects over 1 billion people. Now, let me just stop here for a minute for a disclaimer. I should have made this at the beginning. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't claim to be a medical doctor. Nothing I say should be interpreted as diagnosing or treating anything. This is purely informational. This is purely sharing. Okay. Satisfied my lawyer now. Let's get back to talking about anemia. So losing blood is a way that very often people will come down with iron deficiency anemia. Being vegan, this is one of the possibilities. I was vegan for years, vegan or vegetarian. Meat is obviously very high in iron. So my sense is, with myself personally, that it probably started then, 20 some odd years ago, when I was vegan and vegetarian for years, being iron deficient anemia. And then plus I have kind of a history of digestive stuff. Several years ago, during the pandemic, I contracted COVID a couple of times, like I think most people have. And my sense, and there's no way to know this for sure, is COVID seems to make everything worse. So that extra stress on the body, I think, kicked in this autoimmune stuff that I'm prone to and made things worse. Okay. Now, symptoms of anemia. So the big symptoms of anemia are obviously exhaustion, as you can imagine. So fatigue, also pale skin, pale nail beds. These are some of the ways that you might know. Emotional things, right? When you don't have energy, it can cause moodiness. It can cause depression, things like that. Being out of breath. Exercising is very difficult. Even light exercising, walking can be a problem. All right, so if you have any of these symptoms, again, not a diagnosis, but it's possible that you need to have your blood checked. Okay, you ask your doctor for a complete blood count, a CBC, where it will give you some of this data. Okay, losing hair is a common symptom. Fortunately, that never happened to me. I'm rolling my eyes, as are many of you right now. Okay, you're tired, but sleeping can be an issue, right? So there are a lot of different symptoms. Then there's some weird stuff that you wouldn't expect. There's something called pica or pica. I don't even recall how to pronounce it, but that's when you have cravings for weird things, dirt or ice. So that's a symptom of anemia as well. Okay. Again, you can be iron deficient, have symptoms of iron deficiency, but it takes a while until you become considered anemic, right? It's a threshold kind of thing. What happens is that we have stores of iron, and we call that ferritin. If you have a blood test, then you could check your ferritin levels, and this is storage, right? And once your blood is kind of depleted, then your body goes into these storage units, the ferritin, and takes it from there. And when enough is taken from there, that's when you're really full-blown anemic. Okay. Now, here's the interesting thing. You would think that to fix anemia, it's as simple as just eating more iron. But it's really not that simple for several reasons. Number one, you have to address the reason why you're losing blood in the first place. I mentioned one in discussing the digestive tract and disorders of the digestive tract. Another one would be losing blood. Female will do that with their menses. There are some genetic reasons that people might have difficulty. Okay. Sometimes it's in certain types of anemia that are uncommon, but your body will fail to make the blood cells, or they'll be attacked, the red blood cells. So you have to address the cause of it eventually. I mean, at first you just want to get more iron. There's a problem, however. The problem is it's not as simple as taking more iron or taking iron supplements, because you have to be able to absorb it. And here's where the story gets a little complicated, because there are factors that will prevent your body from absorbing the iron that you need. And if you go on the internet, it's full of stories of people who were doing the right things as far as intake of iron or iron supplements, and yet they could not get their levels up because they didn't understand what to do to help their bodies absorb it. It turns out that there are certain things that will prevent your body from absorbing. Certain foods, for example, caffeine prevents your body from absorbing iron. Foods with something called phytates. So these would include nuts and grains. These will prevent your body from absorbing iron. When you take iron, it also kicks in a reflex, for lack of a better word, a reaction by your body, so you don't take in or absorb too much iron, right? So there's something called hepcidin. If you take iron, it increases hepcidin. Hepcidin is a chemical that will prevent your body from absorbing iron. So you have to be careful about how you take it. I'm not trying to overwhelm anybody here. I'm just trying to give a better understanding. This is why it's a good idea to work with a professional. This is why it's a good idea to educate yourself. And this is why we're doing it. So there are ways to take iron where you'll have less of this hepcidin response, or you can work around this hepcidin response. But you have to be aware about your total diet and the things that will prevent. Tea will prevent you from absorbing iron. With one exception, there's a tea called nettle leaf tea, which I'm drinking right now, and nettle leaf is helpful for absorbing iron. Okay? In addition, the source of iron that you take, if you're going to take supplementation, that's important too, because some sources absorb better than others. So in general, vegetable sources don't absorb as well as animal sources. So the animal sources they called heme iron. The vegetable source they call non-heme iron. So in general, heme iron helps you absorb better. But in order for it to absorb, you want to take with vitamin C. That helps the absorption. You also want to make sure your vitamin D levels are good. That helps the absorption as well. Okay. So as I said, there's a lot to understand. I can't give all of the data. First of all, I don't know all the data. But I think this is a good start for people who suspect that they may be iron deficient, or that their iron deficiency may have turned into anemia. This is a very underrated thing. Anemia itself, in a sense, robs you of life and vitality, right? Oxygen. That's why I keep wanting to scream it in these ways. I'm screaming it to myself. Uh, because once I started on a course of care, I should not have stopped until things were better. So I'm doing that right now. Let's talk about iron deficiency and anemia in the context of weight. In my case, and I think in a lot of cases, it has a negative effect on the ability to lose weight. And this is true for several reasons. And I've gained weight as a result. So this is true for several reasons. Number one, iron, besides having to do with oxygen and oxygen transport in your body, it also has to do with connective tissue. It helps build connective tissue. So one of the problems is weakness. It causes weakness. It's hard to build muscle growth. First of all, you can't exercise because you can't breathe. So you're not building muscle there. And then, of course, you don't have this essential nutrient to help you build tissue. Okay. So muscle goes down. Muscle is metabolically active. Muscle will help you burn fat at rest when you have a good amount of muscle. That's why we encourage people to exercise, not during the detox portion of their programs, but beyond. Okay, you want to build muscle, you want to have tone. So that's one reason. Another reason is since it causes so much fatigue. By the way, memory issues. My staff can tell you about that. All right. But since it causes so much fatigue, well, you want to get some energy. So the tendency is to eat things that will give you quick energy. I personally had gone many years without eating a lot of processed carbs or sugars or things like that. And then the last couple of years, I have eaten those things to a degree that I shouldn't. Okay, so this is a problem as well. All right. So does anemia have something to do with weight gain, or at least set up the conditions for the possibility of weight gain? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Our survival instinct kicks in. We want to eat those things that aren't good for us. We don't have the energy to exercise or be as active as we'd like. And the results could easily be gaining fat. So these are some of the problems. Again, the place to leave you off is a reiteration. If you suspect that you have it, or if you suffer from some of the symptoms, go and find out. Okay, get a CBC. Make sure they get things like your ferritin level. There are a lot of numbers that go along with it, right? I think, but sometimes you'll get blood work done and the doctor won't order ferritin, which is the stores, right? So get your CBC. Go to someone who's qualified, who deals with this. Right? Find out the reason. If it turns out that you're iron deficient or anemic, find out the reasons why that may be. Learn what you can about supplementation. Learn what you can about the absorption of the nutrients, how to eat right. Obviously, certain foods have more iron than other foods. Certainly things like beef, proteins in general, but beef, liver, right? That's the famous one when it comes to iron. By the way, I bought some chicken livers the other day and I tried to cook them and it was horrible. I don't know what I did wrong. If anybody has a recipe for it, please let me know. It was disgusting. So I don't know how I got it down. I kind of forced it, but Maybe I'm just not meant to cook chicken livers. I should leave that to my grandmother. God rest her soul. So do discover, do find out what it takes, do work with a professional. Infusions may be a good idea. Infusions also, though, just don't rely on that as a standalone. Be aware of those factors that I said, which will prevent absorption. And I think that that's a good formula. You can at least begin that journey. You don't know how many people, I don't know how many people who are out there and who are iron deficient or anemic, and they don't know it. How many of these people end up taking psychiatric medications, for example? I have a family member I'm thinking of, right? Does not having enough oxygen going to your brain cause emotional issues, or at least have the potential to? You're damn right. I mean, good luck trying to deal with the challenges of life without oxygen going to your brain and without energy. So another thing to be aware of. All right. And that's on top of what's going on in the world. Stress, by the way, does affect this whole process as it affects everything. All right. So if there are no questions, I'm going to leave off on that note. If you do have questions, please reach out to me. Again, I am not an expert on this subject. I am not a medical doctor. This is a personal story, but it's also something that I think could assist with people who are out there who are like me and, who are not sure what's going on. Okay? Other than that, have a fantastic week. We'll see you in the office. Don't forget, we're trying to encourage people to do the program together with somebody else. All right. We're trying to encourage everyone to understand about keeping weight off, to start at the end, to start with that end game. That end game is keeping the weight off. That is the big game. The little game, of course, is taking it off to get there. Keeping it off is more difficult. There is a path for that. We know how to do it. So that's going to be it for now, and be good.